Hello, it is Jack Gill, and welcome back to Redmen Academy. As always, I am joined by James McHale. Um, Days are going a lot faster now. Football's back, James. The Premier League made its return on Wednesday. Firstly, we had Sheffield United against Aston Villa. There was a bit of everything, James. Controversy. There was a red card in the game afterwards. It's good to have football back, isn't it?
Oh, that's brilliant. As much as I've enjoyed watching, German football, a little bit of La Liga, nothing quite cuts it the same as the Premier League. Even the most, on paper, the most mundane of games was absolutely brilliant. Even with no fans, it felt like we were back to normal, just a little bit. And I think that was the boost that everyone seemed to have needed a little.
Yeah, it's very fitting that the first game back was 0-0. It was a very poor game, and we will start with that. But it was just so good to have football back. And there's a lot of nonsense. I think we spoke about it before. We haven't hidden the fact that in Germany, with all the safety precautions, that sometimes it makes it seem like they're just trying to make people feel like it's safer than it actually is with some of the extra precautions. And we saw in the Premier League things like the away side coming out of the tunnel first and then the home side, but then they're all on the pitch together a few minutes later, stuff like that. But, it's one of them things where I think Matt Hancock and a lot of government ministers had said that they needed to bring football back to improve the mood of people. And that's certainly what it did for me anyway. Yesterday, I was buzzing all day. I was counting down till the kick-off, and now I'm looking forward to the weekend. I know we've got Premier League football on the TV. And actually, I woke up this morning and thought, there's no football on today. How am I going to...
I was exactly the same. I was gutted and I was like, we've had it for one day. After 3 months and I'm already missing it. It's ridiculous.
It's very, very strange, but I'm looking forward to the next few weeks. But yeah, we'll start with the Aston Villa Sheffield United game. James, pretty poor standard of football. I think Sheffield United didn't really go for it. I know they had a couple of injuries. But saying that, there was an element of controversy in the game, wasn't there? And as I said before, it was probably fitting that the first Premier League game back, there's an issue with officiating / technology.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, as Jamie Carragher said, he said they've never had a mistake in the 9,000 games that it's been used for so far. So, it's for the best. And if you just say, you only have one goal line mistake in 9,000 games, you'd take it. But it's just a shame that it's come on the first game back. But it's added a little bit of spiciness, to heat up a little bit and get us all going for this resumption of football.
Yeah, I had to feel for Michael Oliver because obviously a lot of people would shift the blame on him, but from his position on the pitch, he was never to see that, and he did his job. At the end of the day, all referees know in the Premier League that they've got goal line technology, so that's not their decision. They have a look at their watch. If it's over the line, it's pretty simple and self-explanatory. But when there's a fault with that system, it hardly ever happens. And for Michael Oliver, he probably looked at his watch, saw it didn't vibrate, and thought, "Oh, it's clearly not gone over the line." VAR obviously thought the same. I know at times, and this is an issue within itself, Sky seemed to push the agenda straight away of why didn't VAR overrule it, but there's obviously something in the rules which states that VAR can't overrule it.
As far as I'm aware now, they've made a statement saying they will now check decisions like that going forward, but it's just we might never need it again for another good 10 years.
It makes sense as well because obviously that was so far over the line, but with the reason that Hawkeye have given, I wonder if this has happened in the past for previous goals that has not been picked up, but it's been very, very close. And it may have been that this one's the clearest one, but it may not be the first one. And that's an issue within itself. So it's good that VAR can now look at that. But as I said to you at the time, technology, that's the issue. It may be better than the blind eye and referees deciding it. We saw what happened, the most famous one with Lampard in the World Cup for England against Germany. However, technology isn't 100% perfect and you are going to have problems. And it's just typical of the Premier League. It's the first game back when the world is watching.
Absolutely brilliant. It couldn't have happened at a better time, for us as a neutral. Absolutely brilliant. I love all the shithousery on Twitter. I love all the reaction, the overreaction. It was fitting. I think it's the right word.
What did you make of the game, James? I've mentioned that it was quite boring.
Yeah.
There wasn't too much class on show, but I thought Aston Villa looked a lot better, and Sheffield United still look very, very difficult to break down.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Villa are a strange one because they play like they've got more points than they have. That we know they're a home side team. I think they picked up 3/4 of their points at home, so it's no surprise that they're not a bad side at all. They just don't seem to be able to do it away. So you've got to wonder now for this rest of the season, are they going to be able to carry on this decent form? They've got that underdog spirit to them. They play some decent football at times, but then at the same time, Sheffield, they attack in such an orthodox way. It's so satisfying to watch as a neutral, but it just didn't really seem to work for them. And they tried a few different approaches throughout the game, making use of the 5 substitutions, but they didn't look themselves. They didn't look like they were ever really going to be in it, apart from obviously the mistake we saw.
Yeah, they had a couple of key injuries, didn't they?
Yeah.
Sheffield United, and you could tell they weren't quite in the flow that they'd been in all season. And I think again it was fitting that Dean Henderson, I thought, was outstanding again for Sheffield United as he's been a lot all season. I think Aston Villa looked more threatening going forwards. That being said, Sheffield United should have come away from the game 1-0 winners.
Yeah.
But although Aston Villa looked the most threatening, they never looked like they were going to score. I think that's a testament to Dean Henderson and the Sheffield United defence, because once again they produced a fantastic performance. And we're getting used to this, aren't we, from Sheffield United?
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously Jack Robinson deserves a lot of praise. He made, I think, 3 last-ditch tackles to keep Sheffield in the game at times, and it's always a risk bringing in a player who's not played for the club before, at such a crucial point. But he's shown why Liverpool had a lot of faith in him as a kid and why he's built his way back up the football pyramid. So I'm really happy at how well he performed in quite a tricky situation.
I did want to talk about Jack Robinson, James, because obviously we know he was a good young player for us, and he's probably from the days where most Liverpool fans want to forget, and that's sort of the Hodgson days, the early Brendan Rodgers days. He only got 3 appearances for the first team. I think I believe his best performance in a Liverpool shirt was against Hearts in the Europa League. But he looks like a good young kid, and at the time he played understudy to Fabio Aurelio for some parts, and Konchesky and Hodgson, of course. But I was surprised when Sheffield United signed him. I'm not going to lie, because I never thought it'd be a Premier League quality player today. When he left us, he seemed like a sort of player that he had to go because he was the sort of player that can get football down in the Championship, but not at Premier League level. But he's picked up that versatility. He's not just a fullback anymore. He can play left side of the 3 as we saw yesterday. But he showed yesterday for Sheffield United that he really can be a Premier League player.
He didn't look out of his depth at all. I was really impressed that the occasion might have been too much for him. It was obviously a very big moment for him, but it just didn't look like it fazed him. And I'm looking forward to seeing if he carries on getting minutes in the rest of the season.
Absolutely. We'll move on from that game now, because there wasn't too many talking points whatsoever.
No, there really wasn't.
But yeah, a good point for Aston Villa, I should say. They're looking to stay up. And we'll soon see how important those 2 points that Sheffield United have dropped there due to goal line technology will be in their quest for Europe. But to move on, and we'll probably spend a bit longer on this, James, the City Arsenal game. There's so many talking points in this. Firstly, I just want to praise Manchester City, because they've been a bit shaky at times this season. We've been able to laugh at them at times this season because of how poor they looked. But I thought yesterday was the best I've seen them in a long, long time. And I think it's a testament to the fact that Pep Guardiola's got some of his star players back. But you could really see that City in full flow and at their best. And it made me think, wow, this shows how good Liverpool are. We're 22 points now ahead of this side. We've been 25 points ahead of them at times this season. We're just unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, the 3-0 scoreline flattered Arsenal. To be honest, they got absolutely hammered. I think Arsenal had a shot on target all game, whereas City had 12. Just absolutely ridiculous. And I I had a little bit of faith in Arsenal. Not much. Obviously, we know what they're like in defence, but I was kind of hoping there was a point where I thought maybe we might get a draw, just before half time, and then City just turned up the heat, got back into their usual selves that we've seen for the past sort of 3 or 4 years. And, we saw what happened really. This absolutely tore them apart. And it was a professional performance, wasn't it, from a top side?
Absolutely, and that's the thing. I know there's a lot of Liverpool supporters that struggle watching Man City because when you're chasing them or when things are close in the Premier League, it's very difficult because they always do it and they always come through and stuff. But for me, I can't help but enjoy watching Man City at times because watching Kevin De Bruyne is like football porn. He is a wonderful, wonderful player, and yesterday, I think he played some brilliant passes and produced another man of the match performance. And listen, James, the man is incredible, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's the best, in my opinion, the best midfielder in the world. He's so complete. He can play in that deeper role where he's playing as sort of an 8, and he has everything to his game. He can score worldies, he can score tap-ins, he can pass the ball to absolutely anybody on the pitch, and he makes it look effortless. And it's the way he dictates play and his versatility on the pitch where he'll pick it up deep, he'll run with it, he'll lay it off, and then you'll see him again pick it up sort of 30 yards down the line. And there's not many players, for the last sort of 10 years that have been able to do that, and he does it effortlessly.
We talk about players that Liverpool should sign a lot on this channel and on the Red Ben account, James, but honestly, it may be very unlikely, but I don't think many Liverpool fans would disagree with me that if I could have any footballer in the world to add to this current Liverpool squad, it would be Kevin De Bruyne. And my reason for that is you have the main best players in the world, which always seem to be forwards. I'm talking Mbappe, Ronaldo, Messi, Neymar, stuff like that, which would be great additions to this side. But I think adding a De Bruyne-like midfielder, to our midfield is something that we don't really have at Liverpool, and it would give us a whole new dynamic. And he's a Liverpool fan as a kid, so
he's one of the players that takes you up to that next level. And we did it with Van Dijk, we did it with Alisson, and we already had a brilliant attack. And he's sort of, you'd say, he's the last piece of the puzzle. He would elevate us to that absolute top level to rival the best teams that we've seen around Europe for years. And we have a very good midfield as it is, but he's something else, isn't he?
Yeah, he'd definitely be someone who I'd want at Liverpool. And as I said, as a Liverpool fan as a kid, come home, Kevin.
Please.
But yeah, another thing, an interesting thing about the Man City starting lineup was to see Eric Garcia in it. Garcia is a player that we spoke about on this channel before, James. I'm a massive fan of him at the back. He's the future for Man City technically as well. His knowledge is unreal. I've mentioned before he coaches some youth sides at Manchester City, and Pep Guardiola has been known for saying before that he's helped Pep out with coaching some games and giving him some advice and stuff like that. I think he's going to be a lad to remember for years to come, because he almost certainly will become a manager after his playing days. Were you surprised to see him in City starting lineup? Yes.
I mean, I was surprised purely because he doesn't get the minutes he deserves. I shouldn't have been surprised at all, because he is that good that he should be playing now on a semi-regular basis, and yet he doesn't seem to be. So I'm hoping that he's, before he was taken off, that he proved in that time that he has got what it takes to play against, good Premier League teams. And I'd hope that he does, commit himself, continue, obviously get back fit, and then continue to perform, because he needs game time. He's at that age where he needs to be, blood in his teeth a little bit.
I think it's a sign of things to come, James. Personally, I think a back four of what City had yesterday and a Garcia Laporte partnership is brilliantly balanced, and I think Pep Guardiola has grown frustrated with his defence at times this season. We've seen the issues that caused Man City throughout the season, and we know Guardiola is a perfectionist and won't be happy with that whatsoever. I think Garcia is City's second best centre back. I really, really do, and I think with time to come, as he gets more experience, more first team minutes, he'll get even better. And I do think this was a trial from Pep Guardiola to say, look, we don't have too much to play for in the Premier League anymore. Why not? I'm going to try. Centre back is probably going to be a position that Pep Guardiola and City need to look at in the summer and say, do we need to sign someone there? We've known the defensive problems they've had throughout the season, and Garcia can be an answer to that. He really can, and I think Arsenal didn't cause them too much problems yesterday, so we didn't have too much to do. But he just shows he's a good player, and he's a good ball playing centre back as well that the modern world class coaches love.
Yeah, I mean, it was the brilliant opportunity for him to just get a little bit of experience, not be under too much pressure, and just, again, immerse himself in a high pressure environment and, get more minutes under his belt. Because ultimately, that's what young players need, just minutes. Doesn't matter who they're against. You just need time with the ball at your feet on the pitch with the first team.
Talking about minutes in a young player, we'll move on to Phil Foden now. And, we spoke about that new substitution rule the other day, James, and I thought at times it showed its brilliance yesterday. Arsenal needed it. We'll talk about that more in a second. But a man that Pep Guardiola has praised a lot and perhaps said he's got the biggest potential he's ever seen in a footballer, which is Mad Bear Mind. He worked with a young C. He never seems to get the minutes at Man City, and he started more minutes. I know Man City fans favour him taking over David Silva when obviously David Silva departs from the club. He came off the bench yesterday, played I think he played the last half hour, 25 minutes, and got a goal. And, I think the thing is with Phil Foden, no one doubts his ability. Everyone can see he looks like a very good young player. But when he's got the praise he has of Pep Guardiola, you expect him to get more minutes in his legs, and this may be the perfect opportunity to ease him in and start giving him more and more minutes, James.
Yeah, I've been really disappointed at how few minutes he's got. And I understand it's about managing a player, of his caliber. But 380 odd minutes, in the league isn't a lot. And I know a lot of City fans do want to see more of him. And, as people who, enjoy watching youngsters come through, we really want to see him get more and more minutes. And, as you said, this is a perfect opportunity where the pressure's probably off City a little bit. They're not going to publicly say that it's, it's dead and buried, but we all know that it is. So why not? Maybe they will drop points here and there from playing some younger lads, but why not? These are going to be so valuable for these, and it's going to give them so much more than City will lose. Yeah,
these are City fans that mostly all have the mindset of Liam Gallagher at the minute as well, which is that this season shouldn't be being finished. But that's another point. They're going to try things ready for that Champions League tournament. That's going to be what they're looking towards. So they need to get more minutes in Foden's legs, because if he is the man that's going to be filling the void of David Silva when he leaves, then he needs to be ready with more Premier League minutes, because we keep getting told he's an excellent player, but we're not seeing enough of him to realise that. And the glimpses we are seeing show positive signs, but when you're playing week in, week out, is he going to be that good? Is he going to be ready to fill a player like David Silva's boots? Who knows at this point? But I think this substitution thing certainly favours him in terms of doing that, and maybe he'll get more starts now with games in quick succession and very close to each other. I think we're going to have to wait and see. But a goal for him yesterday, James.
Yeah, I mean, brilliant for him. Long may it continue, because we've seen how good he can be in flashes. We want to see him get, a good, hour or so under his belt consistently, and, phase him into that team as David Silva's being phased out, and, let him find his place in that team, because it's not just going to be a matter of slotting him in and saying, do the job that David Silva did. It's going to be about him adapting his play and the team, getting used to having him in there, hopefully on a permanent basis.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on to Arsenal, James. Well, they're same old Arsenal. So some things never change, do they? I thought they started really well. I think the injury for Granit Xhaka was key for the game. I think that completely changed how Arsenal wanted to play that. I think they had some really good opportunities early on, and it looked to me in the early stages like Arteta had made the right decision with a youthful lineup, which excited both of us at the time. But they just showed again things that screamed Arsenal. Gary Neville kept mentioning the fact that they didn't fly to Manchester until 5 p.m., which I think is an absolute joke. And
Ridiculous.
I don't know who allowed that, but that is very clear why the injuries were occurring. And then obviously we had the whole mess of David Luiz, which we'll talk about in a moment, which was absolutely incredible. But James, what do you make of that playing issue and Arsenal getting there so late? Because I don't understand why they ever thought that was a possibility. That these players haven't played much football over the last few weeks and months. And the first game back, they leave it so late to fly.
I mean, if you wouldn't do it during a regular season when players are match fit, I don't know why you'd think that it was ever a good idea to do when players haven't. Most of them wouldn't have had a full 90 minutes under their belt, even in a friendly, for 3 months. It just doesn't make any sense, and it shows that Arsenal's problems go beyond who they're playing at centre back. It goes beyond contract issues or transfer issues. There's something really wrong at that club, and because there's not a single thing to point it down on, it's going to take a long time to rectify it.
They're poorly run, and I thought this for a very long time. It's one of those situations where the fans often scapegoat the manager, and the manager, well, since Wenger, it's always been, oh, Wenger's not good enough, Wenger's not good enough, he's left. They had Emery, they quickly put pressure on him, and now they've got Arteta, who's a young, hungry manager who is far from the finished article. He's only just beginning, but I think he's walked in there. They're all expecting a project, but a project's going to be hard, the way the club's ran.
Projects cost money.
Exactly.
Arsenal are one of the worst teams to be, trying to do this thing where, we're seeing they've got players on the books who are on ridiculous amounts of money. They've got, players like Luis who are in limbo as to whether they're getting a contract or not. And it's the whole thing. They need to clear out the club. And I know they've said this in the past and got rid of a few players. They need to really clear out the club from top to bottom. And if it means, another mediocre season, so be it. But if that means they can get things in order, then they're going to have to do it because things can't continue as the way they are.
I think we have to talk about David Luiz now, James. Obviously, he gets subbed on as Mari, who Arsenal fans have been impressed with since he's come into the team. He picked up an injury. David Luiz has to come on. It never looked right, did he? He's at fault for the first goal. He gives away a penalty for the second goal and is obviously subsequently sent off. He does an interview afterwards and he sort of says, look, don't blame the players. I wanted to come out here. It's my fault. I've not made a decision early enough. I want to stay at Arsenal. Arteta wants me to stay at Arsenal, but who knows? My contract's up in 14 days. That said to me, James, and we just spoke about this, that, once again, there's a disagreement between the manager and the owners at the club and what's going on there. And listen, we all know there's probably a lot of Arsenal fans that want David Luiz gone. I think it confuses me why clubs continue to sign him. As I thought Jamie Carragher put it perfectly yesterday, that the only really good season he's had in the Premier League is that season under Antonio Conte, where he played in the centre of that three and he did the simple stuff and it worked for him. But since then, it's not gone right for him. And
no.
I think that may have been the last we see of him in the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, the Arsenal board would have loved to have brought in a yes man who's going to do exactly what they want. But a yes man isn't going to get them back to their former glory. And, bringing in a young manager who's exciting, who has the potential to do very well, but then not backing him is going to yield the exact same results. So they need to decide what they want to do, whether they want to settle for being an Everton or whether they want to try and get back into top four and, get back to where they belong, really, because they were historically one of the top four teams. And they're not that far away, but it's just going to take a few really big decisions before they can even consider it.
Yeah, I think they're getting into a dangerous part as well because we've seen with us where we were a top four club consistently, we went into dangerous territory and started slipping out of that. But we've come out on the other side. But I think Arsenal are in a position where it's going to be hard to turn that around. It's going to be interesting to keep our eye on what happens with Ozil, what they do there, because again, he didn't make a 20-man squad yesterday, Mesut Ozil, and with the wages he's on, for Arsenal to be paying him wages when he's not being anywhere near the first team is absurd. And if he doesn't leave Arsenal this summer, they're going to continue paying wasted wages, really.
Exactly, and Arsenal recorded a £27 million loss. Being back in Europa League is taking a hit. They need to get their affairs in order financially and get these players who, as talented as they might be on the day, if they're not playing, why are you paying them? Get them off the books. Come to some sort of deal where, okay, you might take a hit to pay them off, but then you're free then to sort of balance the books later on and, do whatever you need to do to stabilise the club, because it's in free fall at the moment.
And this goes back to poor decisions, like when he was their best player and he was getting them just top four, just about. They were giving him long-term contracts with ridiculous money, and that's always been Arsenal, and that's why I said at the start of this conversation, the same old Arsenal.
Reward mediocrity.
Yeah, exactly. That's what Arsenal have been doing in the last few years, and they're in a position now where they've got a young, hungry manager, as I said before, who's perfect for a project. And I've spoke often about, is with all the coronavirus stuff going on, is now a right time for clubs like Arsenal to just be starting a project? Possibly not, but they have to try it, and maybe
they've got a choice, have they?
Exactly. And maybe this is the start of it, and maybe they have to push Louise and Ozil out and make decisions like this to show that. But I think it's going to be very interesting to follow what happens at Arsenal and see what happens with the likes of Louise and Ozil and what goes on there, because I think Arteta's starting 11 yesterday showed that he's ready to start youngsters, and he's ready to put his faith in good young players like Joe Willock. Saka, who everyone knows we think is amazing on this channel, and Eddie and Nketiah up front. But Arsenal have an abundance of young talent. They have
ridiculous. They have Martinelli, Maitland-Niles. It's ridiculous, and you just need to commit to saying this is the way we want to do things, and the fans will buy into it, because it's not going to be any worse than how things are now.
And this is the thing, though, James, as well. The players they have to look up to. We talk about the role models in the Liverpool squad and how important people like Jordan Henderson, James Milner, Adam Lallana are for those youngsters. But Arsenal don't have players like that. The captain Aubameyang didn't look interested yesterday. He loses interest if he's not getting the ball, which is easy to do. But from your captain, you want a leader who's going to bring through these young players and take them under his wing. But Arsenal don't really have players that are able to do.
They've got mercenaries. That's what they've got. Players who play for the money, not the badge. And I know players can show passion all you want, but it's different to loving the club. And ultimately, it's going to poison the younger lads coming through, because they're going to see these players getting rewarded with big contracts for mediocrity. They might be amazing players, but if you're only getting 5th place in the league and you're getting a new contract, what's the incentive to do better?
And this has been going on for years at Arsenal. We've seen over the years, going back to when Oxlade-Chamberlain was there, and we'd be 3-4-0 up against them, and all the players' heads would drop, and they've got no one on the pitch that's able to go, come on, we can't, we've got to keep going. They've got no one that does that, and they just capitulate. And yesterday, I think I saw the penalty go in and David Luiz go off, and you thought, this could be an incredible scoreline now. And I think all credit to Bernd Leno in the Arsenal goal, who I think has been incredible all season. It could have been a cricket score. It really could have, if it wasn't for him yesterday. But I think Arteta's got a lot to do, and fair play to the man if he can sort that club out, because it's going to be a big job. It's a Jurgen Klopp sort of job. It's probably bigger than the job Jurgen Klopp had to do when he came to Liverpool. But anyway, that's enough for those two fixtures, and we're glad to have football back. Me and James are going to look ahead now to the fixtures from Friday and Saturday before we build up to the Everton-Liverpool game, obviously in a different video. But we'll start with the games tomorrow, and we'll start with a big one, James. Manchester United, Tottenham. Harry Kane's back. Jose Mourinho has a lot of the top first team back. How do you think it's going to go?
I'm going to go United 2-1. I do feel like United have got enough in them, and Spurs just never seem to convince me, really, regardless of how good they might be. It's not enough. I'm going 2-1 United.
It's going to be interesting, and a lot of people look at Manchester United at the minute as a team that may benefit from the break because they've got Paul Pogba back, and then what's going to happen with Pogba and Fernandes. I know United fans are very excited for that, and there's probably a lot of people right now with eyes on Marcus Rashford with how brilliant he's been throughout this break. But Tottenham and Mourinho, their old manager, are going to go and going to want to cause an upset. It hasn't been good enough this season from Tottenham, and they want it to be better. And since Mourinho's come in, he's used the excuse of injuries. He's got a lot of them players back now. He's got his main man back now, and it's going to be interesting to see both sides tomorrow. I think it's going to be a draw personally, but that's just me. Remember, like we did for yesterday's game. Sorry, we'll put our score predictions over on the Twitter in a thread. And we'll do that via that. You can see what we think, and you can comment what you predict yourselves. Before that as well, James, we've got Norwich Southampton, which just screams thriller, doesn't it?
I've not got much faith at all. So it's hard to even. I want to say 0-0 draw, but I'm going to back the underdog. I'm going to go Norwich 1-0 because Southampton just, they've obviously lost the head of Højbjerg, who said he's going to leave. He's been taking the captaincy off, and Norwich might be able to do something, go down fighting. So 1-0 Norwich for me.
This is the thing. I think a lot of people have written Norwich out, but they're not dead and buried yet. They've got some great players like Dia and Timu Pukki and Campbell, and they're far from down. But with teams like Southampton who are safe, they don't really have too much to play for. I think this period of time is dangerous. I've said this before. It's the same with Crystal Palace, and it's whether Norwich just want more from that game. And exactly. I suppose we'll have to wait and see. But I do favour Norwich. I really do. And then on Saturday, of course, the early kickoff, Watford-Leicester. Can Watford cause a shock, James?
I mean, I think they'll play well. I don't think they've got anything in them. I'd go 3-1 to Leicester purely because I think Leicester will have obviously have a little bit of a boost having Vardy back, and I think they have got enough in them to win. But again, Watford are a decent team. Obviously, we saw against us that on their day they've got goals in them, and they are an exciting team to watch. And it's not going to be a quiet game by any means, I don't think, because they both have something in their locker. But yeah, I think Leicester 3-1.
That was early days for Pearson as well, wasn't it? He's had a bit longer there now. He'd have had them training throughout this. I think it's key to see the lineup though, whether Troy Deeney's in there, because we've seen Watford without Troy Deeney and with him this season, and they're a lot better with him. And we know that he's had issues throughout this. That at times he said he's not going to play. But I think he'll be key, and even if he's not playing, I think him being around the squad and helping them through it is going to be key for their survival. So it's interesting. I do think they're capable of pulling off the shock, and I do think in the next few weeks we'll see that without fans in the stadium, you can see anything on the football pitch, as we've seen from the Bundesliga. So it's going to be very interesting. After that, we have Brighton Arsenal, and I honestly fancy Brighton.
I'd love to say that Brighton have enough in them, but they've been absolutely terrible in 2020. I know Arsenal haven't been much better, but I think a draw, honestly, wouldn't surprise me. A 1-1 draw is absolutely screams Arsenal-Brighton nowadays, and I have no faith in Arsenal anymore, especially now. Even if Luis could have played, he's sent off anyway, so they are very much down to the bare bones if Mary's injured as well.
Definitely, and then in the evening on Saturday we have West Ham Wolves and Bournemouth Crystal Palace. How do you make that? How do you think those will go?
Every time I see West Ham play, and I think, you know what, they've got some decent players, they've got it in them, but they never seem to perform. And we know how good Wolves can be, and obviously having this break, I think, will have helped them. They've played a lot of games this season. Wolves should win it. I think they will. They'll just edge it. I don't think West Ham will go down maybe as easy as people might think. They have got those players who are capable of getting a result. They just don't seem to ever do it. And then with Palace and Bournemouth, it doesn't really scream thriller again, like the Norwich and Southampton game. But I do quite fancy Palace this season. They've played some good football under Hodgson. I don't want to take that away from them.
I think Bournemouth Crystal Palace has 0-0 written over it, and on the polar opposite of that, I think West Ham versus Wolves, we could see a lot of goals. But yeah, I fancy Wolves. I think West Ham are in real big trouble. I think although they have good players, they just don't look right. And I quite like Wolves' style, and I fancy them to push the top four. I really do. So I favour them. Looking at these games that we just spoke about, any youngsters that you think our viewers should keep their eye on?
I mean, the Arsenal game again, it might not be the most exciting of games, but I wouldn't be surprised if we were to see, a few more youngsters, get more minutes. And then obviously we saw with Wolves that they've got that Otasawi.
Yeah,
He's a player to definitely watch out for. We really like the look of as well. So it'd be interesting to see whether he comes into this Wolves team and gets a few more minutes, because there's been a lot of speculation over his future, and with players like that, you need to convince them that you've got belief in them, and he needs to start performing soon.
I was going to say Wolves are a side to watch with youngsters that we've seen from their under 23s, and they've got players like Owen Otasawi, who is a fantastic player. It's looking at players, teams like Crystal Palace as well. With, as I said, they've not got too much to play for. Does Roy Hodgson use this as an opportunity to bring a young player through? Arsenal are obviously the team to watch in here with all the brilliant young talent they have, but also Brighton. I keep saying Tariq Lamptey, and he signed for Brighton in January, of course. We've not seen him in the first team yet, but with everything gone on, has Graham Potter had a chance to look at him more and to tell him that he wants him to be his right wing back going forwards? And
I mean, if he offers something different to what they've got, then go for it, because whatever they're doing right now isn't working.
Well, yeah, I really like Graham Potter though, and what he's done to Brighton. I think the way they play is a lot nicer.
Yeah, definitely.
I just think they've struggled getting results, and that's the thing. They may be hard to break down, but they're not impossible to break down, and they find it hard to put the ball in the back of the net, and that's their issue. Another youngster, Neil Maupay, as well. He needs to start putting more goals, and he's going to be very key to their survival fight as well. So yeah, let us know in the comments what you think. Should there be youngsters for me and James to keep our eye on this weekend that we haven't spoke about before? Let us know. We'll be back on Saturday with our preview for Everton Liverpool, and then after all the games this weekend, we'll be doing a little review on some youngsters and let you know on that. Thanks for watching again, and remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Hope you enjoyed it. Ta-ra.